Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Robbie Rants YouTube channel. I am your host, Robbie Collins, and this chat has been in the making, I kid you not, for a long time. It's been like a year and a half. I've been trying to get this sorted. This guy is the host of the On the Mat Wrestling podcast, with him, Tucky, and Ian have grown to over 450 subscribers on YouTube. He is the founder of the Main Event Wrestling Network, which I kid you not, has some of the best wrestling creators in the world on it. I'm not even just being biased. That is true. He is also the co-host and founder of the NXT Night Shift podcast with him and Jay Gold. It is Mr. OTM, Kyle Gagliardi. Kyle, how are you doing?
Robbie, I'm doing fantastic. That was a wonderful intro. I'm not used to being interviewed like this. Obviously, we've chatted before. You've been on OTM before. You've also been a part of the main event 24-hour stream. So we've gotten the chance to chat before, but we have been trying to set up something on your show for, like you said, it seems like years. So I'm glad we're finally having the opportunity to do so today.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this felt like the perfect time. It's a new channel, it's a fresh start. I'm trying to get as many interviews as possible, so this just felt right. Getting into it then, I always like to ask a bit of an icebreaker question, and this one feels more suited to you because when I was having a look through your rep, you have a quote in your profile which I find quite interesting. It says, "Be yourself, can't be no one else." Now, I quite like that, but to you, why does that quote mean so much to you? I always feel like your ex bio is a place to showcase yourself for a first impression. So, what does that quote mean to you?
Well, I don't know if you even noticed it. It's actually a part of Johnny Gargano's theme song. Be yourself, can't be no one else. Rebel Heart. And if you know this, but others might not know, Johnny Gargano is one of my favorite professional wrestlers of all time. I just resonated with him. He's an undersized Italian. We kind of had the same stature, so I kind of liked him, and I just attached myself to him. And that song and that line specifically, "Be yourself, can't be no one else," is something I as I've gotten older, Robbie, and when I was your age currently, I was not myself. I was trying to be something I wasn't just to get the approvals of others. And that's not the way to live life. So that's why, I put that one in my bio because, for one, Johnny Gargano, so close to my heart. And like I said, I got the chance to meet him a couple times. He's a wonderful guy. But yeah, that sentence just resonated really well with me. But I can tell it resonated with you as well. So I love that.
Yeah, it's a good quote. I don't actually know if you know this, but it's also in a quote from an Oasis song. If you know the UK band Oasis, so they have it in one of
Yeah.
their songs as well. So when I first read the quote, I sort of looked at it and went, "That's an Oasis quote," but I know you also know it from wrestling as well.
What song is it? If you do you know it?
Um, it's called Supersonic, the Oasis song. It's called.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's in that. So when I
That's a
first read it, I was like, "Aye, that makes sense." It's a really good quote, though. I think it does paint a perspective. I think a couple of years ago, particularly when I started off doing this sort of stuff as well, I wasn't myself in front of a camera. I was very different. I maybe got to play up to the camera a bit more. When now I've just sort of learned, just be your normal self. It's all you can do.
Yeah, and that's how people resonate with you, and that's how you're gonna attract an audience and gain viewers. People want to be around for the ride if you're your authentic self first, because they could see right through you if you're being fake. And when you first started, your content was very good. I mean, you started way before I even started creating any type of content, and I could just see as the years go on, you are showcasing more of yourself, and you're growing as a person, and it's just so cool to see. But it's 100% facts.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Jamie, who we had on yesterday, said the exact same thing. He's only started doing media and podcasting about a year and a half ago, so he's got on the game very late, and I feel very privileged that I've grew up being able to do this at such a young age. I do have a lot, and I would Kyle, you do as well. I know sometimes you make jokes and streaming on the podcast and stuff, but genuinely, you're still very young in terms of the podcasting, but there's still a long way for you guys to go OTM as well. To get into OTM, how did that start? Take us right back to the start of your media and podcasting. How did you get a feel for this?
Yeah, so like my pro wrestling coverage goes all the way back to 2010, I want to say. And Robbie, I don't know how would that make you in 2010.
2010, I would be four, I think.
Oh my lord, that makes me feel like an old man. But so yeah, I started creating content, doing YouTube reviews on my personal channel that I still have. Actually, that content's still out there, and that kind of evolved into other things. So I went to college, Indiana University, and I studied sports broadcasting there. Like I love baseball. I love football. I used to do commentating for softball at the high school level out here in Indiana. So that was always my first passion. So broadcasting made sense. So I went to school, got my degree, and I wanted to start a podcast. And like I said, big sports fan, as you know. Me and my cousin Tyler, we started a sports podcast, and that just kind of evolved because we launched our podcast. It took off. We were on Twitter, and you know how Twitter can be, especially like once you get into that niche community. Like everybody starts checking you out, and you start growing. And then I'm like, okay, there's wrestling fans out here. So I previously worked with another podcast that I don't want to mention their name because we had a falling out. But yeah, they first gave me a platform. We did a lot of retro reviews and whatnot. And then obviously I didn't like how I really didn't have any creative control there. So you know what? Maybe it was time for me to start something. So, long story short, 2019 rolls around. Tuck has a podcast. It's about baseball. I have a podcast about football. We find out we both love professional wrestling. So, we're like, you know what? Maybe we should start our podcast. And I don't know how the name started. That might have been from Tuck. Could have been my cousin Tyler that I had the previous podcast with. But yeah, I randomly texted Tuck out of nowhere because we both were podcasters. We both like wrestling. And I was like, it's time for me to start my own thing and might as well do it with one of my best friends. So, yeah, I know that's a long winded answer, but that's the true story on how everything started over here.
No, so I mean, as it evolved, how did you sort of figure out? Obviously, you and Tucky both done separate sport podcasts. How did you figure out it was professional wrestling that you wanted to go down? Was it just a coincidence when you and Tucky came together, or was it something you always found that you wanted to go forward with?
No, I mean, a mixture of both. Like, I've always wanted to have my own pro wrestling podcast. Like, when I got into covering stuff in 2010 and 2012, that was the goal, was to be a YouTuber. But then it changed to podcasting when I went to school. But no, it was kind of just happenstance with Tuck because we both played in the same competitive wiffle ball league. I know you know I play wiffle ball out here in the States, but yeah, I think I randomly one time said, "Hey, Tuck, you kind of look like John Moxley." And he goes, "Wait, you like wrestling gags?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I think that's how that connection started. And then it was just the perfect storm, man, because it was, like I said, it was time for me to move on from my previous show. I always wanted to do my own thing, and pro wrestling since the year 2011 has consumed my life completely.
Yeah, so going back to 2011 then, when you were getting into both professional wrestling, sorry, what was the first, can you remember your first event that you ever watched?
Oh yeah. It's a cool little story. You might have heard it, but I know the masses definitely haven't. So, I never was one of those kids growing up that watched professional wrestling. Like I knew of it. My cousin Tyler actually, fun fact, was a wrestling fan when he was a kid. So he was the wrestling fan first, and he was there in Chicago in 2000 when Chris Jericho made his debut in the WWF at the time. So I just thought that was funny that he became the fan first and I became the fan later. But yeah, it was like 2011. I'm still living at my parents', obviously, because I'm a junior in high school around this time. And I walked in. My brother has Down syndrome. He's just watching TV in the other room, and I see John Cena on my television screen. I'm like, okay, I know who John Cena is. Everyone knows who John Cena is. You can't see me. We all know that. And I know personally, with having a brother with a disability, that kids with disabilities tend to love John Cena. So I could just see the love that my brother had for Cena. So I just hung around. And it was the Raw, I think, leading up to Capital Punishment, where John Cena took on R-Truth. Now, we didn't buy that pay per view, but I knew it was happening just because I so happened to walk in on my brother watching it one day. So then I knew Monday Night Raw was coming around and they were building towards Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank was going to be in Chicago, John Cena versus CM Punk. I was supposed to go to that show, so this is the first show I actually purchased, but it turns out I had a baseball game, so I couldn't go, but I still was able to watch it. So 2011, Money in the Bank, main event, John Cena versus CM Punk, where Punk walks out with the title, was the very first pay-per-view I purchased. And then ever since that moment, I kid you not, Robbie, I have not missed an episode of Raw, SmackDown, NXT, or AEW Dynamite since 2011.
Yeah, that is really, really impressive. I mean, it's not just like any other sport. You don't get a break during the week to, let things rest. It's always go, go, go. So the fact you've never missed an episode, I was going to ask you who were your sort of favourites growing up, but I think the main obvious choice is John Cena. I think anybody who even looks at your profile would know that. But was there any other favourites that you had growing up?
Yeah, John Cena is obviously the one that sticks out. But honestly, when I was a part of that other podcast and we got to watch older wrestling, a guy that stood out to me was the Macho Man Randy Savage. Just the charisma that man had. So smooth in the ring too. Ricky Steamboat, another guy that caught my eye from back in the day. But obviously, you have the icons like Stone Cold, The Rock. I knew who The Rock was because he's just so popular in the States. So always have loved him. But yeah, John Cena was just that one guy I attached my rocket to. Of course, Randy Orton deserves some love too. How can you not love Randy Orton? But yeah, that 2010 era, it was tough. You know how tough it was to be a wrestling fan during that time. So there wasn't really any big names other than John Cena and Randy Orton. So I guess I fit into that era, even though like people my age, they were around for the Attitude Era. I just never was a fan, like I said, around that time.
Yeah, I mean, you go into later in the sort of 2010s and you're getting to 2016 and 17, there was some pretty wild concepts getting flung about the WWE at that time. In terms of the actual OTM podcast, then, for people who don't know, just try and give a brief description on what the OTM podcast is.
Yeah, so it's kind of evolved over the years. So when we started, it was just Tuck and I, and it was just audio podcasting. We didn't even do live or record on StreamYard or anything because Tuck lived literally 10 minutes down the road. So we were able to record. He would come over. We'd do it the old fashioned way. But now we are live every single week. The time varies, but I would say our usual set time is 7 p.m. Central every single Thursday here in the States. And the concept's really simple. It's modern wrestling. We love talking about everything that's going on in wrestling, and it's not specifically WWE, even though we mainly focus on the WWE, as you know. But we will dabble into AEW, especially when they do the big shows. But independent wrestling will sometimes work with Pro Wrestling Ventures, who's a company that's a local to us here in Northwest Indiana. So yeah, that's kind of the structure of the show. Like I said, we're a live podcast now, and we got Ian, who's full-time part-timer. I think we need a new gimmick for him because he's here more than Tuck, but you know Tuck's a father, so and he's a head coach, so he's very busy. But yeah, that's really what we're all about. We're about having a good time too. We have a fake title. I shouldn't say it's fake. It's actually real. Like we keep stats, but it's called the most valuable mark, and that goes out to somebody that is interacting the most or giving us the best quality comments or just making the boys laugh live during the show. And Robbie, you would know, you're a former MVM yourself. You've been a part of plenty of the OTME shows. So yeah, that's what we're kind of all about here at OTM.
I like to consider myself the best MVM of all time. I make that on this
I think
podcast.
Kine would disagree with you, Robbie.
Me and Ken can have an online discussion about that if he wants, because I'm well up for that debate. But actually, you can't see it, of course, had to wear the OTM hoodie today. Underneath, I do have the MVM shot on. For people who don't know, and I actually don't think I know myself, how did the concept of MVM start?
Gosh, that is a great question. And usually when people do ask these questions, I just credit Tuck because he's the creative one. I kind of just tell people, I think I've even told you before, I'm not really like tech savvy. Like I know my way around StreamYard, but I don't know everything, and I'm okay with admitting that. But I'm just very comfortable at getting on screen, talking with people, and just having conversations. So it might have been my idea. I'm not really sure. I can't give you a for sure answer, but it definitely was the goal was to encourage engagement because you know I say it every week. The On the Mark Wrestling Podcast is hosted by the Marks for the Marks. At the core, we are just Marks wanting to talk professional wrestling, and I don't know why I came up with that idea, but maybe we just wanted to get more people involved with the party, and that's what we're all about at OTM. So that's probably how that all came about. I don't know, like I said, exactly when or where, but Tuck might know. You might have to ask him.
Yeah, you spoke a bit there about having that engagement, and you spoke also a bit about you getting in front of the camera now. When I was speaking to Jamie yesterday, we sort of delved into an interesting conversation about starting in front of the camera now. I gave him the story, and I'll share it with you as well, that when I first started college and I was getting in front of the camera, I couldn't have done this about maybe 2 years ago. I could not have started in front of the camera. It was just too social and nervous, and a bunch of different stuff. For you getting into podcasting, was that ever an issue? Was standing in front of a camera or sitting in a StreamYard call ever an issue for you? No.
No, I was never shy, Robbie. My mom would tell you she's got home videos of me dancing to NSYNC on the fireplace. So I was always in front of the camera. I loved performing and entertaining. I just loved making people laugh. That's what I just want life to not be taken so seriously. So that's kind of my approach to everything with that.
Yeah, that's completely fair enough. It's interesting to see where a lot of people come from because I feel like there's people that are just naturally made to be in front of a camera. Some people need to learn. It's always
Well, and
interesting.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but like I know at first, and you even were open with me. I hope you don't mind me sharing these private conversations that we had. That you were nervous at times at the beginning, but and am I allowed to cuss on this show, or you want to keep
Yeah,
it
yeah,
clean?
yeah. No,
I was
cut
gonna say,
away.
don't give a fuck what anybody thinks, okay? Like, you just do you and have a good time while doing it. And it doesn't matter what the ratings say, it doesn't matter what the random people on the internet are saying. As long as you're having fun doing it, Robbie, it's going to translate and people are going to want to watch you and want to talk and want to have these conversations with you. And that's why I love seeing your progression over the past couple years.
Thank you. I've got to say as well, seeing your progression as well, even though I wasn't obviously OTM from the start, because I think by the time you started the podcast, I still would have been quite a young guy. But seeing your progression as well, and specifically like Ian, for example, when Ian was first got onto the podcast, his progression has been night and day. He's just so comfortable in the camera and he can just chat away. It's been brilliant to see everybody's progression, really.
Yeah, you nailed it with Ian. So if you guys don't know my co-host Ian, he's a lot younger than me. He's actually closer to Robbie's age. I believe he's 23 years old, but you ain't lying, and he would admit it too. And I'm gonna say this because I know he's gonna be watching this conversation. Ian sucked at podcasting at the beginning, and once again, he would be the first person to admit it. But the evolution of him, and it's a comfortability thing. It's just getting those reps in, practice. I mean, you watch sports, you love football. I love baseball. I love American football. But it's the only way you're going to get better is repetition and working on your craft. It's the same thing when it comes to this stuff. Just hopping on camera, doing this live with everybody watching. I know we are not live, but there are instances where you do it. That's the fun of it. And that's the only way you're going to progress. And Ian has slowly progressed on time. And now you get to see the real Ian, I should say. Because when Ian started, he was just a kid. Now, I guess he's a man. Well, I guess we can call him a man.
Yeah, I mean, even for me as well, you go back to 2023, I think the first time I made an appearance on OTM, I think it was the 2023 MVMs. I can't
Sounds
quite
about right.
remember. But if you look at that clip, and I think I was only on the show for about 2 minutes compared to now. I mean, I don't know if you could tell at the time, but I was extremely nervous for that show at the time. But now it just comes down to there. I mean, the last time I was on the OTMs, I dressed up as LA Knight in front of the camera.
I
So
was gonna say you had a persona and everything. You were showing us personality. It was fantastic. Completely different.
yeah, so I mean, it does just take a lot of practice. One tip I give to anybody out there, and I'd love to get a tip off of you as well. For me, just sit down in front of a camera. You don't need to publish this anywhere, but one tip I found very useful is sit in front of a camera and record yourself for 10 minutes every single day. That gets you good experience. Pick a topic that you want to talk about and try and make it last the 10 minutes because it really does help. But if you had one tip for anyone out there looking to get into podcasting or get better at doing it, what would your tip be?
Oh wow, that's a tough question, Robbie, because there's a lot of tips I would give, and I feel like I'm still giving tips out to people, and I myself haven't even perfected my craft. But I think it goes back all the way to my Twitter bio once again: is be yourself, be authentic. I'm going to keep reiterating that point because if you're going to be fake on camera, nobody's going to be interested in watching your product. If you're only focused on getting views, nobody's going to want to be a part of that. We all want to grow together, and that's a big reason why we started the network as a whole. It's just bringing others together, like-minded individuals, and promoting good content. That's what it all comes down to at the end of the day. So just being authentic once again. I know I've been saying that a lot this episode, but that's my best advice. And also don't be scared and don't worry about what other people have to say. Just be tunnel vision, be locked in, have fun while you're doing it, and good things will come. And I'm saying this from someone that's not even successful. And I put that in quotes because success is defined by the beholder. I say this because I don't make money from it. That's the ultimate goal at the end of the day. Sure, it would be nice to quit our day jobs and talk wrestling or talk about football for the rest of our lives, which is still a possibility. That's why we do it, because you never know. But yeah, man, just be authentic at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean that last point is a really strong one because we were having a chat yesterday, and I was saying like, you know, as much as you said, I love to be able to quit the day job and be able to talk about football or wrestling every day. You know, I do it because I love it. I do it because, let's be honest, you're going to watch a wrestling show anyway. You're going to watch football, American football every day anyway. So you might as well just get in front of a camera and chat about it while you can.
You said
Um,
it. You said it. If as long as you love it, keep doing it. Do the things you love because life sucks sometimes.
yeah, 100%. But transitioning over to the main event wrestling network, I'm interested how this concept came about because I, me and Kine have obviously been a part of the main event wrestling network. But for people who don't know, what is it?
So, Main Event Wrestling Network is kind of an evolution of my old sports network. So, I don't even know if you know this. I used to run the Overtime Sports Network, and that was just sports. We did have wrestling podcasts a part of it, but it wasn't a strictly wrestling podcast network. And that kind of dissolved because podcasts end. As you know, the average podcast, I think it's like 8 episodes. So, not a lot of podcasts stick around. A lot fail. It's not easy. And that's another thing, being consistent and hitting your times every single week. That's another piece of advice for you right there. But sorry, I've lost the question again. Can you repeat it?
No, just what actually is the main event wrestling network. And I should
Yeah.
apologise, by the way, if my Scottish accent comes on a bit strong. Sometimes I'll slip on words like what. So like, I just mean like what. Like, for example, sometimes they will just slip out.
No, you're all good. It has nothing to do with the accent. I'm sure you probably can't understand my. People say I have a Chicago accent living out here, but no. So the Main Event Wrestling Network, like I said, is like evolution of the Overtime Sports Network, but it is strictly wrestling content, and that's actually, I know this, the origin story. It was Ian and I driving back from a wiffle ball tournament, and we were like, you know what? Wrestling's kind of cool right now. Like Tuck says it all the time on our podcast. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan. And it is. So don't listen to what people are saying online, even though a lot of people are saying that wrestling sucks right now. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan. So Ian and I are like, if we spearhead this together, we attack this, we could create a positive space for professional wrestling because there are a bunch of positive pockets on the internet. I love what Fightful does. I know a lot of people dislike what Fightful does, but I've heard great things about Sean Ross Sapp, and that's kind of what the goal was with the Main Event Wrestling Network to become. But right now, what we are is essentially a family of like minded individuals coming together to create unique content for the professional wrestling fan. It's similar to OTM, by the marks, for the marks. We're the fans just creating content for the fans, but we don't really care what people think either. So, like, we love interaction. So, we have podcasts, we have bloggers, we have people creating TikTok content. You used to do that for us, which, by the way, if you want to come back and do TikTok content for the Main Event Wrestling Network, you're always welcome to. But that's another thing too. You gave me this platform. If anybody, we're not looking for any podcasts right now, but if you want to do some graphic design, maybe some social media work, maybe be a part of the blog, there are openings. And yeah, we've been around now, Robbie, I think for 2 years. So we're approaching 2 years here in August, I believe.
Yeah, there's a good concept. Now, I've kept this hidden until this podcast because I wanted to stay on here with you. There's a concept that I've come up with, and I'm no the guy to do this, but I'm going to throw it out there. If anybody watches this and at all wants to get into the Main Event Wrestling Network, a cool idea would be take someone from the network every single week, make a pro wrestling quiz from their era, and quiz them on it, and make a leaderboard and find out who can get highest. Now, you can run this back repetitively. You can obviously add in special quizzes. If it's Christmas time, do a Christmas style wee quiz. Fling out anything. Just how cool would that be? Though, getting someone from the network every single week and quizzing them on their wrestling skills.
That's actually a great idea. I might have to run that with the network. I might have to table that one for sure. But that's what it's about, is getting everybody involved because once again, it's like similar to ice cream, Robbie. Like, what's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Mint chocolate chip.
Okay, that's preposterous, by the way. Wow, that's
No,
my least
actually,
favorite.
no, it's cookie dough ice cream. Actually,
That's
cookie dough.
safer. And I'm assuming you dislike some flavors, correct?
Yeah, what flavours the ice cream do I dislike? Probably anything with peanut in it.
Oh, that's fair. So that's the same thing with professional wrestling and same thing with content creation. Not everybody is going to like the same people. Some people might not like OTM, might not like our style of doing so, but what we have to offer with the Indie Wrestling Guide is completely different because it's a centralized focus on independent wrestling. Okay, that's not your cup of tea. The Wrestling Junkies podcast, they talk about everything and they are live every single day during the week. Okay, that's not your thing. We have Tino who's live doing watch alongs, Tim Vicious doing weekly reviews. There is something for everyone and any kind of content that you might like at the Main Event Wrestling Network. And that's why me and Ian decided to start this. We're like, there's just so many good people that aren't getting recognized. And that's my thing. I want people to get the love they deserve. And everybody at the Main Event Wrestling Network, yourself who's been a part of it, you've been a contributor, have all been, just I can't thank you guys enough for being a part of it.
No, honestly, I say this all the time. We thank you specifically, Kyle, because you've given people the platform. Even getting back to, and I'm sure Tucky and Ian would say this as well. Not necessarily giving them the platform, but starting a podcast with them, so they can talk about the things they love. For Ian, for example, giving him the platform to grow confidence and do stuff like that, giving me the opportunity to come on your show a couple of times to grow my confidence as well. Honestly, it's appreciated so much. I actually lost my train of thought, but I
No,
think I
you're
was going
good
to
because
ask.
I have something else to say, and that's another beauty of all this too. Is it deepens connections too with your friendships, and it creates bonds that you never thought you were going to have just by creating a small little safe space in professional wrestling. I have built so many new friends outside. Like me and you are on completely different sides of the globe right now, but we are having this conversation and it's cordial and we get along and it's great. And that's why I started this because I'm the kind of person that has always needed to be around people. I'm a people person, or at least I was until I moved out by myself, started spending a lot more time by myself. And that's another reason why I do podcasting and all that, to keep these friendships going, to keep these bonds strong, because Tuck's been gone for 4 years now. I haven't lived by him for 4 years, but every single week I get the opportunity to maybe talk to him on a podcast. Same thing with Ian. He moved away, but that's our time to bond. And that's what's cool too, is that I get to meet people like you from 8 different time zones away.
Yeah, no, actually, I forgot to bring it up at the time, but if anybody wants to check out the OTM podcast for the UK listeners' time, it starts anywhere between 12 at night and 2 in the morning. So just anywhere sort of between that time zone, make sure to check out. I mean, me and Kine will tell you, we've stayed up to some mental times to watch the podcast.
You guys are
Um,
crazy. Don't worry. It's always on YouTube later, so you can watch it the next day. Get some sleep.
yeah, no, we like cups of coffee here, so we usually just go for that route. But I
Me
wanted
too.
to yeah, I wanted to ask you about the Main Event Wrestling Network, and specifically, you mentioned it earlier, the 24-hour stream. That to me was something that honestly I don't think words could describe how much I appreciated even just being a small part of that, just jump on for a couple of predictions. How did that concept come about? Because, this isn't easy to pull together, this isn't just a regular stream. You had to do so
No.
many changes with so many different people. So explain through it all how that came about.
Love this question because that is probably like the most proud I've ever been of anything that has been orchestrated by me. And I can't even take a majority of the credit of it. I was just the kind of guy that was just being the puppeteer behind the scenes, making sure the time slots were all figured out, everybody had their spot, and that everybody was able to log in at the right time. But the idea actually stemmed from Tino. So Tino at Tino's time, that dude is doing live streams every single day, mainly a watch along type of content, but he does do predictions and whatnot. And we call him the marathon man. And we jokingly one day were like, Tino, you should go live for 24 hours one day. And he's like, we should all do it. And I go, yeah, we should do that. Because honestly, and I think you probably would agree, I haven't seen any other network, any other website that covers professional wrestling even attempt something like that. Have you?
Never. I don't think so, no.
And to do it and I hate to pat myself on the back, but I'm going to put myself over to do it with no mishaps whatsoever. There was no dead air for 24 hours straight, and all the content had to do with pro wrestling. And there were people from the West Coast in California. We had people on the East Coast in New York. We have people in Ohio, Indiana, Nevada. We were trying to get the Sam's on Wrestling YouTube guys on, who actually I believe live in the UK, but they weren't able to make it. But it was just so great that everything worked out. And man, planning it was difficult because obviously not everybody wants to, do the time slots from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. And shout out to Paperclip Mike. He filled in and was streaming during that time. But once again, he was streaming wrestling video games. So every single minute of that stream was dedicated to professional wrestling. And so the idea really stems to Tino jokingly saying, hey, maybe I should do a 24-hour stream. No, we should do a 24-hour stream. So that actually is going to become a yearly tradition, which, by the way, congrats, you're invited back again for year 2. So mark your calendars. It is going to become a Memorial Day weekend tradition. Main Event 24 will be coming your way next Memorial Day weekend.
That sounds good. I'm excited to see where that goes because there is so much things you could do. I'm already thinking inside my head, who's going to be the first one to actually book out a wrestling ring for 3 hours and perform wrestling moves on the live stream? Who's going to do this?
We should have a match. You're right.
How good would imagine a main event network Royal Rumble?
You know what? I think it would be even better. And now you're just really giving me ideas. So I appreciate this conversation. I'm wondering if I should convince the group to just purchase an Airbnb somewhere centrally located and we just get together in the same house and we all stream together. That could be something too.
And you could try and book out a wrestling ring near the place as well, go for one of the
Get an indie show involved. Yeah.
Go and book some of the indie wrestling. I'm sure Matt Cardona would be up for doing it at some point.
The indie god doesn't want the smoke with former legend KJG right here.
But back on to OTM, and I've actually got a bit of a quiz question to ask you, and I'm not sure if you'll know this or no, but I want to fling this in. Can you name your most viewed live stream that you've done so far?
I think it was WrestleMania 39 preview and predictions. We did over 1,000 views live, which was absolutely insane. Like the comment section, and then that's why I kind of think maybe there was a lot of bots involved. It doesn't matter. The numbers are there. You can look for themselves. I think the timing was great too because, as you know, WrestleMania 39 was the build to the one in Los Angeles, and that was the first Cody and Roman matchup. So that's when the WWE was really starting to pick up steam. Things were really getting interesting. And I think everybody was just so emotionally invested in the build to WrestleMania 39. As you know, a lot of people assumed, like myself, who was wearing Cody Rhodes' merch at WrestleMania 39, that he was going to beat Roman that first time. We know that did not happen. But yeah, it was WrestleMania 39 preview and predictions, over 1,000 at the time. And I just think it was the perfect storm. Like I said, the build to WrestleMania 39 was great. And I want to say that also that was when Erica Marini was still a part of the podcast. And as everybody know, Erica Marini provides a whole different dynamic to our show. She was a part of it for a year, I believe, to be exact. But obviously a female, that's not the whole point. What makes her different. She just has a unique style, as you know, of covering wrestling. So
Erica's Rotten Tomatoes will always be a good segment.
She had segments,
Yeah. But that WrestleMania 39 preview and predictions is number 4 on the views that I've got in front of me here. Number 3 is Crown Jewel prediction 2022. Yeah, that got 1.4k views.
So that you know that what the common trend is here too. We went to WrestleMania 39 and we went to that SummerSlam. So I wonder if people knew we were going and wanted to watch.
Yeah. Number 2 is the Royal Rumble 2023 preview and predictions.
We were at that one too, yep.
That has 3.5k views.
Wow.
And number 1 with a staggering 6.9k views is the SummerSlam recap, new challenger for Rollins 1 year ago.
Wow, last year's SummerSlam recap. Oh, we were there again. See, that maybe that's the common trend, and we do go to a lot of shows. That's another thing. Full disclosure here, I spend all my vacation money on wrestling shows, so I'll be going to SummerSlam soon. But yeah, every one of those top 5s had to do with us also being a part of it. And I'm surprised the Royal Rumble this year didn't go higher because I also had a vlog for the first time, and that got pretty good traction too. But that's cool that you were able to look that up. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a cool little feature. You can look up the videos as well, but I don't think you do much video content now, as maybe compared to what you used to do.
Everything's
So
pretty much live in shorts. Yeah.
yeah, I actually want to ask you about that sort of live podcasting because I asked Jamie about it, and Jamie does a lot of live podcasting as well. I've never really ventured into doing it much. I think the most I've done is like TikTok lives. What I've done there pretty short. So for you, why did live podcasting stand out to you compared to maybe just sitting in a stream your call at for an hour? Was it just that engagement concept?
It's the engagement, it's the connection that you're building. There's an authentic connection when you're just shooting from the hip, nothing scripted, because once again, just peeling back the curtain a little bit, when we first started this podcast, our show was very structured. I'm very OCD. Okay, I'm very structured when it comes to this stuff because I take it seriously. This is my pride and joy. This is something I still want to make my profession. So yeah, I'm going to invest a lot of time into it. So once again, sorry, jog me. I had a long day. What was the question again? I
No, you're
apologize so
fine.
much.
It was just about live podcast and why that stood out to you a bit more than this type.
Yeah, that's why. It's just to get that interaction because even I know firsthand experience. Like I listen to a lot of shows, but I don't feel like there's engagement at all whatsoever there. Like maybe you'll tweet back at a big podcast that you just listened to on audio, but they're not going to say hi back or like your thing or yada yada yada. But somebody can tune in live to my podcast, leave a comment, and I can in that exact moment just react to it off the cuff and be authentic. It goes back to authenticity once again. So, see, all my things are kind of connected here. I'm starting to connect some dots. I'm not that crazy.
Yeah. But I suppose that is a good point. I mean, like I don't really structure these shows. Of course, I'll have my notes and things I want to talk about because I think you just need to when you're doing stuff like this. But that is a good point. You know, if you're going off the cuff, I think it creates better moments. You know, I could probably scroll through my camera roll and find about a million videos for OTM podcast over the last year with funny bits, and I know I post Tucky saying choo choo. I know that's a pretty common clip I use. So I suppose it does just create the moments like that, which ultimately I think make a podcast a million times better to listen to.
Yeah, I do think it's more enjoyable to listen to if it's live because there's just so many unplanned moments that come out of it. And so sometimes when you're listening to a show, you can tell if it's structured. You can just tell if they're reading off the script and it's like, all right, let's go here. All right, and sure, you need to transition and say things like that. I'm guilty of it myself, but if it sounds like you're reading off a script, I'm going to be disconnected. That's just me personally. I'm not speaking on behalf of everyone, but that's what I would assume why some people would prefer the live podcast experience because you're just part of a larger community when it's live.
Yeah, I think a good example of that is probably Chris Van Vliet. Now, he's one that, if no one knows the professional wrestling space, he is arguably the biggest interviewer in the wrestling space, at least in my opinion. But what he does so well is, yes, you can tell he's got a structure to his show, he knows what he's going to talk about, but it can go off in different directions, almost like I think what we've done here today. You know, you start with a baseline, but you'll go off in different directions and talk about different things. I think that's what makes this so good at what he does.
Yeah, that's why the good people are really good at this thing is because they're able to pivot on the fly. You got to be very versatile and be able to adjust because not everything is going to go to plan, and that's another piece of advice. You just can't plan out everything because things are going to happen that you don't see coming. Or sometimes you're going to go into a situation with say you have an interview with a wrestler, you might be nervous, you don't know anything about them, and then you get out of that interview and you're like, oh wait, that was great. They were hilarious. Why was I stressing? Just don't stress it. Don't plan it. Go into it. Have fun. It sounds simple, but not everybody can do it. I know, but at least that is just, once again, my approach to the way I do podcasting and content creation.
Yeah, one thing I did actually want to transition into is going to indie wrestling shows. I know you've been to a couple. I know, luckily, you've shared the same experience as me. I've been able to go backstage at one of these shows. What was that like for you? Because there's no many people I can talk to about this. I can talk to myself in a mirror about it, but how was that for you getting that type of experience?
Yeah, I know you know the feeling. I think we've shared a few stories about our experiences, but yeah, I don't want to say too much of the details, but obviously everybody knows the company, formerly Warrior Wrestling, now Pro Wrestling Ventures. I believe I mentioned them earlier, but yeah, great people over there. Steve Tortorello, he's the guy that runs things over there. We just straight up asked, hey, can we help out? We got a podcast. Okay, sure, show up. So here I am setting up a wrestling ring. First off, 2011 Gags, and Gags is my nickname for the record, would have never thought in his life that he would be in a wrestling ring. But I've gotten the opportunity to set up, tear down. I've gotten the opportunity to pick up gear. I've done camera work for this company, like came out with an entrance with guys that you see on TNA Impact, which is surreal. And at the end of the day, though, it's not that big of a deal. Once you get into that moment, you realize that they are human. Sure, they're playing a character, but once they're their authentic selves themselves in the back, you're like, oh, okay, this is fun. This is normal. I could see myself doing this. But it's like a kid living out his dream. I mean, there's a story of where Ian and I worked one of the shows outdoors, and the main event was Matt Cardona versus KC Navarro for the Warrior Wrestling title. And I was working walkie-talkie, and Ian was working pyro. There was a spot planned where we know the story, what's going to happen. We know the spot, but we just have to nail the cues. So somebody's relaying a message to me of when to tell Ian to go, and then I can say whatever I want. So, of course, I have a walkie-talkie. I'm a mark. I'm sitting next to my bell, right next to the ring. And then here I am. I go, Ian, light that shit. And then perfectly, and I can attach it to this episode if you want me to. There's a clip online. Perfect timing right when they get to the top, because they're at a football stadium. And they get the top of the press box above the football stadium. And that's the finish of the match. And you just see fireworks shoot out behind the football stadium. That was me and Ian that coordinated that spot. And just that's a fun story. It's just really fun. It's a really cool experience. And honestly, most people that work in professional wrestling are great people.
Yeah, that story is amazing. They definitely need to get that attached on here, because I actually need to watch that. I don't think I've seen it before, so
I,
I'll need
I,
to give it.
I'll be able to find it. Remind me after the podcast and I'll find it for you and send it to
Yeah,
you.
100%. In terms of the actual ring, I know you said you've got to set it up and take it down. When I first got to do that sort of stuff, I was mainly just the music. They just had play the music, play the theme song, stuff like that. But I got lucky enough to get a shot in the ring, and I actually had this conversation with Kane. It hurts. It hurts a lot. I don't know how much you've tried. I don't even know if I think you've had your hands on the ropes. Even just bouncing off of the ropes, it gives you a lot of respect, more respect than I ever had to growing up for these professional wrestlers. Yes, taking bumps, of course, that's going to be sore, but to even just hitting your back off of the rope is painful, and I think it gives you a better respect for guys like Braun Breaker, who will just zoom side to side on these ropes like it's absolutely nothing.
They're moving quicker than the speed of sound. And like you said, yes, I have had the opportunity to actually wrestle a match. I think I worked an 8 minute impromptu match before midget wrestling night here at a local baseball stadium. So I actually fractured my nose in that match too, taking a GTS, fun fact. But no, you said it. Even taking the simplest bumps, it'll take the wind right out of you. You got to tuck your chin. It's so hard. Running the ropes, you'll have welts, you'll have bruises just from running it a couple times. And obviously it varies, but they're not like sponges. They're not springs. Those are coils. This is real. Like when people say, oh, wrestling's fake. No, wrestling's scripted, and we know that. But also, every time you go to the movie theater, Superman's not actually flying, guys. Breaking news: the Tooth Fairy's not real, even though the game plan. Well, I think that was where The Rock had to dress up as the Tooth Fairy. Maybe I'm not saying the right movie, but the game plan had the Tooth Fairy in it. Who knows? But yeah, regardless, yeah. Moral of the story: that's it.
Yeah, because it was funny, because when we went to see Joe Hendry and Kane get up in the ropes, and this was his first time, and I'd been in the ring at this point. I'd already seen it, I'd experienced it, I know what it's like. Kane, I then get in the ring, so he went in first, got his picture with Joe Hendry, asked him a question, got out. When I was getting out the ring and I was looking at Kane, his face was scribbling, because he did not expect the way the ring was.
It shocks you, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I had the same reaction. You think there's at least you think there's even that amount of padding in the ring. There isn't. There is absolutely nothing. It's just solid wood underneath it, and I'm like, that puts a whole different perspective on these wrestlers.
That sound, like the wooden clank when you go to an independent wrestling show in a small intimate venue, is wrestling ASMR for me. Like, bottle that up, sell that to me, and I want it for the rest of my life, because that's when wrestling's in its purest form, as you know. And that's so cool that you guys got to meet Joe Hendry. I know I was keeping up with that when you guys were, because you were posting it on social media, and I think you even told us about it. But yeah, it's a unreal experience. If you've never actually stepped into a ring, you'd be very surprised.
Yeah, 100%. I think just indie wrestling and the whole those a lot different to watching a sort of mainstream event like WWE or anything like that. Like more intimate. I don't know if I told this story, but Kane actually got hit off of one of the wrestlers flying at the middle of the ropes.
He
So
probably
that was,
deserved it.
uh, well, I had argued that, but even on the entrance, there was a lassie that came out. I get booted in my left leg. It's just it's different, but it's fun. You enjoy it. You don't think about getting hit or anything like that until you're actually there and it happens. It
You're
is just,
creating memories.
yeah, I think it is something that everyone who likes wrestling in some way, shape, or form should try at least once in their lives.
Yeah, you have to go to an independent show. I don't even think that's non-negotiable. Like I love when people see like independent wrestling or other companies and they're like, "Oh, you're watching WWE." Like they lump everything in as just WWE. If it's wrestling, it's called WWE. I'm like, "No, that's just the independent scene. It's a little different. Why don't you go and maybe see a show and see if you like it?" Because I even think if you're not a wrestling fan, maybe you're a doubter, maybe you're a hater, if you go to a show, I still think you're going to be entertained. I really do, especially if there's alcohol involved and you're of age. Yeah, have a good time, embrace yourself, and immerse yourself, I should say, into the independent scene, because they deserve our support just as much as the people that are on TV every week.
Yeah, and Kyle, moving back onto the WWE, and I've taken a lot of inspiration for you because you are one of the very few fans that I know that try not to be negative about the product that you're watching. You're so good at being able to balance out WWE and AEW specifically. We know the debate that's online. We're not going to get into it because we try to keep things as positive as possible on here. But you know firsthand the debate that people have with AEW and WWE. What would you say to people maybe getting into wrestling? Say there was a wrestling fan that someone that wanted to be a wrestling fan tomorrow and wanted to try both products. What I don't want to say advice. Advice seems the wrong word, but what would you say to them if they were starting out watching both products?
Whew, good question. Well, first off, I love this metaphor. Pro wrestling is like a buffet. We've all gone to buffets. There's things we like at buffets, there's things we're going to avoid. And there's different alternatives out there. So there's nothing I would say you should watch this, because we all have different interests and different wants out of wrestling. And it might be tougher for somebody that is going into it with a mindset of, oh, this is fake, I don't want to watch this, but you're making them watch it. It's different. But if you go into it with an open mind and realize that they are trying to tell stories at the end of the day, just similar to cinema. Like I compared to movies earlier, that's what it is, but it's live entertainment where they are risking their bodies and their health, their physical health and their mental health, because they're away from their families, they're away from their kids, they're just always on. You have to be on 100% of the time. You're getting mobbed at airports. It's just, which that's another thing, Robbie. I can go into a whole rant. Once again, I don't want to be negative, like you said, about wrestling fans. It's just not hard to be normal. That's my advice. Is just try and be normal and go in there with a clear and open mind. And maybe AEW is not for you, but maybe you want more storytelling. Then go watch WWE. Maybe that's if you're a Disney kid, I say go watch WWE, because that's going to be the bigger, spectacular show. But if you're hardcore, if you want to see the best in ring wrestling, AEW, TNA, I mean, yeah, just go into it with an open mind. That would be my advice if somebody wanted to start watching professional wrestling. And you're gonna unfortunately gonna have to deal with some tough times too. It's just like being a sports fan where you can't win all the time.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm a very small platform in professional wrestling. Please don't go to wrestlers in airports. I hate it when people do that, and wrestlers say it all the time as well. Just they're normal guys. Let them do their thing. I can guarantee half the people that have travelled through airports know how stressed it is. Can you imagine when you're a professional wrestler, getting off that plane, you're going to be bombarded by people?
Dude, I would be like MJF 24/7 if I got bombarded at an airport. Like, everybody's miserable. Everybody's in a hurry, like you said, at the airport. Nobody's ever in a good mood unless they're about to go on a trip and their flight isn't delayed. So, yeah, just don't be an asshole.
Yeah, you've put it perfectly there. Now SummerSlam. I know you're going along. I know the hype levels must be there for this show. How are you feeling overall about it?
So the card actually is better than I expected it to be. I don't know why I wasn't anticipating it to be that good, but I think it's pretty top heavy. Like there's some big marquee matchups, obviously with John Cena and Cody Rhodes and Tiffany Stratton, Jade Cargill, the triple threat Naomi, Io, and Rhea is going to be fantastic. Which shout out to Rio and Io. I think they had one of the greatest matches of the year so far at Evolution, but the excitement levels honestly aren't where they were in past years. And once again, this is like my fourth straight SummerSlam, but I'm more looking forward to the moments that are going to be had because that's what these weekends have turned into me is just not experiencing everything professional wrestling, but like immersing myself into the city. So Thursday, I'm getting in. I'm flying into LaGuardia in New York, and I'm actually meeting up with Jay Gold, and he's going to take us out for some New York food. We're just going to go out and see the city and do things that aren't related to professional wrestling. And then Friday, we're going to a GCW show and then maybe going to WrestleCon. Like, we're just going to go and have a good time. And that's what I really look forward to on these weekends. And then this is the first 2 night SummerSlam, too, which I don't know how I feel about that. I will let you know when I get back. But it's going to be a big deal. It should be a big deal. I am looking forward to it because, like I said, it is a vacation for me and I'm gonna get to meet Jay Gold for the first time in person. But yeah, compared to the last couple years, the excitement levels aren't there yet. But we still got time. We still got a couple weeks.
Yeah, I think getting into this because it is the first 2 night SummerSlam. There is maybe a bit of speculation on how good it's actually going to be. I think it needs to be right because there's no point in just doing 2 night events for every show. It'd be pointless. The whole point of a 2 night show is it is such a special show, which don't get me wrong, SummerSlam is. But you kind of flung in there something, but gone to New York. I mean, me and my mum were literally, quick story, having this conversation earlier about our dreams are to go to New York. So
Oh, really?
I hope you enjoy that in a couple of weeks because it's, for us, like, especially across the pond, it's that place that's a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's that special place where everybody knows and everybody wants to go. So
You know
that
what's
should,
crazy is, and maybe it's just the Midwest in me and the Chicago in me. I've had no interest of like going to New York ever. Like it's just not a thing I've ever wanted to experience because I heard it's like there's trash on the sidewalks and everything and whatnot. But the food's what excites me, and the sights that you would see are just things you're not going to see every day. Especially if you're like me who lives in the suburbs, or you who lives across the pond. So I definitely will let you know what my experience is going to be like. But that's another cool thing about professional wrestling is, you know me, I don't have a significant other, I don't have kids, so I have a lot of free time. So this is what I do. It's all about wrestling. This isn't a gimmick, Robbie. I'm not just a mark for the internet. I truly love this shit.
yeah, and I think for us it's mainly because we are big Home Alone fans, and if you've seen Home Alone, Kevin goes to New York, and we like
True.
Friends, so that's very New York based as well. So all that build up makes you want to go there. But no, this should be a good show. For the last sort of 10 minutes or so, okay, I want to step away from wrestling. What I know you're not too used to, especially in front of a camera, but I want to find out a bit more about what Kyle does off of a camera. What's some of your other interests? Would you say what's your big sort of interests away from professional wrestling?
So there's really only two things. It's sports and it's kind of the same thing and wiffle ball. So like I said earlier, I play competitive wiffle ball. I'm sure you've seen the clips online. It's the white ball with the holes in it. It's not like a baseball, but you play it like the sport baseball. And I've been doing that for 8 years. So that takes up all my summer. That's 2 days a week. Like I've traveled to go to many tournaments. Like there's a tournament happening right now in Pittsburgh, and that's the national tournament. Like I've gotten to travel, had opportunities to potentially play on TV. So if I'm not watching wrestling, I'm playing wiffle ball or I'm in the gym. That's been a recent thing for me. So you've known me for a couple years. I was never huge by any means, but I had more weight. I recently had lost about 30 to 35 pounds, and I just decided it was time to do something other than the wrestling because this was really all I did. Like what you see is what you get is wrestling content creation. I realized, okay, it's not COVID anymore because I used to work out and be consistent. I was an athlete growing up, but I got away from it after COVID. Full disclosure, very depressed for a couple years there, and that couple, probably from 2022 to 2024 just recently, and so yeah, it was tough. But then I said, "F it, time to change the narrative," and yeah, so I would say competitive wiffle ball, watching sports, and working out. That's the hobbies outside of wrestling.
It's a pretty simple life. I like it. It's, it's not adventuring too much, but you
And of
spoke
course,
about
vitamins too. If you know, you know.
a lot of vitamins,
A
but
lot of vitamins last night. That's for damn sure.
but you spoke about going to the gym there, and it is something that has mentally helped me this year as well. I've been going to the gym a lot more. I've actually got a medical next week for a new job, so I've had to extra hit the weights this week to try and get better. For you in the gym, what's your top three songs that you like to play?
I'm a wrestling guy through and through. I literally have. Are you on Spotify?
Yeah,
I have a playlist that just says wrestling themes. And it is under my name, Kyle Gagliardi. It is 6 hours. I'm showing it on screen. 6 hours and 6 minutes. And I literally just play wrestling themes. Like, this is not a gimmick. I'm telling you, people. If I were to give you a top three, though, Roman Reigns, I Am Greatness. Just when that music hits, the blood's going to be pumping. Um, Probably Invincible by MGK because it brings me back to the John Cena and The Rock at WrestleMania. That one always gets me pumped. And I'm going to go with a deep cut here. And I'm going to go with Root of All Evil, Aleister Black. That song really gets me going.
yeah, that is a good three. To be fair, I think it's always a difficult question because there is so many good wrestling theme songs. Like,
Oh, Solo Sokoa's is great.
yeah, yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, I think you could literally spend all day, and there's a lot of good indie ones as well. And there's a lot of good indie ones I've found there the last couple of years as well, but you've just never heard of before. But they're just such good songs. I mean,
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people like to crap on Def Rebel, which they are bad. They're not good. But they actually do have some good ones. I just don't think people are giving it a chance and listening to it when it's not on a wrestling show.
yeah, true. I mean, I don't think I listen to Def Rebel outside of like wrestling
I'm in
shows.
the top, I think, 0.1% of WWE listeners on Spotify, so it's a problem. Point 0.1. Yes, you read that right.
But for wiffle ball, I want you to explain that a wee bit more because I don't think, from what I've researched, people in the UK don't tend to play wiffle ball. So for any
No,
of the
they don't.
UK audience watching, how about a bit of a deeper explanation of what wiffle ball is?
So, very similar to baseball. Do you guys watch baseball over in the UK at least?
Uh, there is baseball. I, I personally don't watch it a lot, but I know like what baseball is, and I think we play baseball in school sometimes as well. So
Yeah, you have a pitcher who's throwing the ball, you have a hitter, and you have fielders. There's 3 outs in an inning. Once we get to 5 balls, so if it's not a strike, because we have actually strike zones in the ground, so they just sit there, and if you hit the strike zone, it's a strike. 3 strikes, you're out. 3 outs in an inning, and you play with this yellow, skinny wiffle ball bat. Like it's literally probably that big. So you have this plastic ball and a plastic bat, and we're playing on a like 90-foot field in the middle of nowhere. It sounds crazy, but that's Americans being American right there. It's just an easy way to describe it is a kid's form of baseball because we always played wiffle ball growing up. That was the thing in the States. It's like you had a big blue bat or a big yellow bat, and you sit in the backyard, and your dad would throw you wiffle balls, and you just hit them. So we play it now as an adult.
yeah, and it sounds good. To be fair, have you ever heard of rounders?
No.
It's just it's literally as simple as there's a bat, there's a ball, you hit it, and you need to go round in a circle to try and get back to get the point.
Sounds
It's
similar
as
to
sim-
baseball, yeah.
yeah, I think it's about as simple as they come. So I think games like that, it's a lot of fun. I mean, over the last sort of 3 years, I think I really slowed down on maybe like going outside just in general. I think after lockdown, I was quite an inside person, didn't really want to go and venture it. But I think playing sports like that, and even just going to the gym, even if it's only a couple of times a week, I think it can really help you mentally.
Yeah, oh, for sure. It definitely helps mentally. Just having structure and a purpose and a schedule. Just showing up for yourself. It's not always about doing something for others. At least I always put others before me, but sometimes you got to put yourself before anybody else. And it's as simple as just stepping into that gym. Maybe you didn't hit the gym hard that day, but you stepped in there and you made a decision to be better that day. And that's sometimes all it takes to just make you feel better and go to sleep and be like, you know what? I was productive today. And that's why it's good to have hobbies. It's good to be physically active. If you can't be physically active, there's definitely other hobbies out there that you can immerse yourself in and hopefully that'll bring you happiness.
Yeah, actually, one I'm learning right now is chess. I'm actually learning how to be a chess player, so
There you go.
that's a new hobby I've ventured into. But honestly, Kyle, I
That'll
thank you.
challenge you too. That'll challenge you mentally.
Yeah, it has so far. I've downloaded one game and I sit and look at the chessboard and my head just goes away because I don't know what I'm doing. But
Fair
I'll
enough.
get there. I'll get there eventually. But Kyle, honestly, I appreciate you so much for coming on. I have one final question. What is your wrestling Mount Rushmore?
Oh God, dang it! That's so tough. That is so tough because I have I'm one of those people that has separate Mount Rushmores. Like I have in ring Mount Rushmore, I have everything Mount Rushmore, but I'm gonna give you my everything Mount Rushmore. This is including on the mic, in ring ability, just has it all. And obviously my GOAT, John Cena. John Cena's on the Mount Rushmore. There's no disputing that. Stone Cold Steve Austin is 100% on there. A lot of people would argue the longevity thing, but he got hurt. But that impact that he made during the Attitude Era changed the way we look at professional wrestling. So Stone Cold Steve Austin, John Cena, and this is where it gets very, very difficult because there were so many names. And honestly, I think you can make a case nowadays for Roman Reigns to be on the Mount Rushmore, which might trigger a lot of people. But I'm going to stay away from it. I'm going to respect the old heads, and I'm going to put Shawn Michaels in the Mount Rushmore. You talk about in-ring, I would say him and Bryan Danielson are the greatest in-ring wrestlers of all time. So Shawn Michaels did it with a little bit more charisma, I would say, than Daniel Bryan. So that's probably why I would give Shawn Michaels the nod. So I got John Cena, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, and The Undertaker. It was tough. I was thinking about Roman Reigns and The Rock. The Rock, another short run. And I don't like how he keeps flirting with the WWE now and then leaving. Like doing the heel turn with John and then not following up on it. Get out of here, The Rock. You ain't on my Mount Rushmore. So John Cena, Stone Cold, Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, and The Undertaker are Mr. OTM's Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, that is a great four. There's one you've not named. I'll run through my four quickly that I
Let's
actually
hear
named
it.
yesterday on the show. So two the same, John Cena and Stone Cold Steve Austin. They
Have
are
to, right?
got to be on the list. I did include The Rock in mine just
That's fair.
because John Cena versus The Rock. I mean, it was a case of I actually didn't find out until a bit later, but growing up when they two faced off, my mum was a
Yeah.
big Rock fan and I was a big Cena fan, so it was almost like two clashing heads.
Family divided.
Yeah, a big family divide. And the fourth one, I went Randy Orton on my Mount Rushmore. I just gone back to see his the heel work in 2009 was just incredible.
Elite. The bald
Yeah,
Randy Orton was a menace. And there's just so many names I want to mention in that conversation, like Kurt Angle, Triple H, Chris Jericho, Roman Reigns. There's so many names that we're not even bringing up. Macho Man, Andre the Giant. I mean, that's why I don't get why people get mad when you ask those kind of questions because everything is subjective and it's opinions. So don't get mad. Let everybody have their opinions and let's enjoy professional wrestling, guys.
couldn't have said it any better myself. But I mean, that is the whole point, that is such an opinion thing. But Kyle, once again, I thank you so much for coming on. We didn't even cover half of the topics I wanted to
Hey,
cover.
maybe
So
there'll have to be a part two.
yeah, we will 100% need to get you back on. But this is the part where I give you freedom. Plug away, plug anything you want, say anything you want, basically.
Oh, you don't want me to. You don't want me to say anything I want. You can't catch me on Twitch though, right? Or this isn't live. For a second there, I thought it was live, but I might be on Twitch if you're watching this. Twitch.tv/2sweetkyle. I am always streaming college football there. If you want to keep up with the On the Mark Wrestling podcast, even Robbie's got the merch on. You can visit the On the Mark Wrestling Podcast.com. That's how you can get that merch. Robbie, once again, thank you for your support throughout these years. We couldn't be in the position we're in without people like you. So if you want to keep up with that show, we're on all the socials at Pod on the Mark. Shout out to the Main Event Wrestling Network at main event _net on all the socials. That is the podcast network that I started and that we are a part of. And of course, if you like NXT, which I know Robbie dabbles in NXT, we are live 15 minutes after NXT finishes up every Tuesday night at NXT Night Shift on X. And Robbie, it was a pleasure chatting with you, and I'm sure I'll be interacting with you on Twitch very shortly.
100%. Let's go, Jayhawk. That's all I have left to say. But thank you so much for watching. I'll leave the link to our Kyle stuff down below so you can check it all out. And and we will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
See you guys.